Praygrounds, Let the Children Come to Me Chapel, Praygrounds, and more. My spell check has really not liked all of the times that I've written Praygrounds for this webinar. Linda Chambers, our esteemed presenter, is commemorating 3 decades. Are you serious? 3 decades of dedicated service and ministry at Memorial Lutheran Church located in St. Augustine, Florida. In her role as the chapel school director and the family ministry director, and I think she probably has several other titles, Linda diligently leads families on a profound exploration of their faith. Her commitment to excellence is underscored by her extensive involvement with ELEA, where she has been a valued member for years, including a significant tenure of 9 years on the national board. Recognized for her outstanding contributions, Linda was honored as the ELCA Early Childhood Director of the Year in 2015. She attributes her achievements in ministry to the invaluable connections she has forged with fellow directors through her active participation in ELEA. Linda takes great pleasure in sharing her transformative journey from weekday ministry to Sunday worship during her chapel time sessions. And without further ado, I will turn this over to Linda. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Corey. I appreciate it. I've been so excited about this. I think we talked about this back in October or November. So yeah, I'm really excited to get this done. Welcome to Florida, guys. It's nice to see everybody. I live in St. Augustine, Florida, which is the nation's oldest city. And our church is Memorial Lutheran Church of the Martyrs. And I decided to sit here in the sanctuary today, which is my favorite place to be. So it's so nice to see everybody here. Corey asked me to talk about my favorite subject, which is chapel time. Chapel time, my chapel time journey has led me all the way into family ministry, from chapel time all the way into family ministry. And that's was not an expected turn for me, but it really has happened organically. And I think this was just God's intention the whole way. And it all started with connections. ELEA is all about connecting. And those connections for me really became clear during COVID. I think during COVID, the one thing we could all agree on was that we all missed being connected to each other. And so for us, that was my biggest takeaway with COVID, is to stay connected to our families. And that's the best way that we do that here at Chapel School, is through our chapel time. And let me move this again so I can see. Okay. So back to the connections. What's really important part for us with chapel time is making the connections. Of course, we connect with our families every morning, inviting them to chapel time. We do our chapel time every morning during drop-off. We scheduled it during the time when we knew families would be available and be present, which is at drop-off. So most of our kids arrive at 8:30. That's when we do chapel time. Oops. In this picture, you guys can see, this was actually taken when I was in Seattle last year for an ELEA event. And my staff did chapel time for me while I was there. And they did the story of Mary and Martha. And you can see on the altar, we have some adults acting out the story of Mary and Martha. Those are parents to the right. There's a dad there sitting there as Jesus. There's another mom who is Mary listening to Jesus. And then I have a teacher on the other side furiously sweeping, and that is Martha. And the kids love it. We don't do this all the time, but we do it every now and then when there's a story that we feel like needs a little emphasis. We'll just do an impromptu acting out, type thing. And when I was gone, our teachers did this, and they included a lot of parents, which is great. Any way you can involve them, I think, is good. So during chapel time, not only are we connecting families, we're connecting our school staff. All our staff members come to chapel time every morning and sit with their kids, and the families sit with their kids too. So together they each class sits together in chapel time. And it also connects the church. We invite, you'll find me talking about inviting a lot during this workshop, because you have to be very intentional about inviting people to chapel time, whether it's your families, whether it's your church members. Let your church members know what you're doing at chapel time. Tell the stories about things that are happening in chapel time. That's how to connect your church to what you're doing in your school. I'm constantly inviting church members to chapel time. I tell people, you can, we have chapel every morning at 8:30. Come. If you're in the neighborhood, come. If you're at the church for a meeting, come, join us. You are welcome. And you know what they do? It may happen once a year, but it happens. And then they tell their friends, oh my gosh, I went to chapel time and I had so much fun. And then all of a sudden, that's just building those connections between your church and your school. I also write a lot of anecdotal things in our church newsletter. It's important to tell the stories about what's happening in your school. Let your church know about that. I can't emphasize that enough. But our biggest connection, of course, is to Christ. And this is so very important. I always say, number one, look at your mission statement. Your mission statement is your guide, and hopefully your mission matches your church's mission. That for us was really important, and an important part of our journey into becoming chapel school. We were known as Memorial Lutheran Preschool for 15 years before we changed our name to Chapel School. And the reason we changed our name to Chapel School is because it better reflected who we are. We are known for chapel time. So that's how we became Chapel School. And all of this came from our mission. Our mission statement is only 3 words. It's very simple: making Christ known. And so that really guides everything we do, is about making Christ known. So look at your mission statement. This is your guide. If it doesn't match your church's mission, take a look at that. Maybe it should, or maybe somehow you can somehow make them relate somehow. Also know your audience. Who are your families? Are they church members? Are they unchurched? We have in our application process for school, we have a question we ask, what is your church affiliation? If you don't know this, you should, because it's really helpful to know who is churched and who is not. And in chapel school, we were very, very intentional about elevating the role of our weekday families. I don't know about your church, but in our church, we had a real disconnect between weekday families and Sunday families. And I think this is a pretty common thing. And so we had to be very intentional about elevating the role of our weekday families. And I'll talk more about that coming up. Know your material for chapel time. Be prepared. Make it relevant. Make it fun. Make it, something they're going to look forward to and take something with them when they leave. And remember, this might be the only time, your school might be the only time a child hears about Christ. What do you want them to remember? And really think about that. Here, this little picture, I hope you can see it. This little one, she's now in 1st grade. And she came to chapel time with her older brother and sister every single morning. She couldn't wait to be a chapel school kid. And her mom took this picture and put it on social media one day, and I just thought it was adorable. So how did chapel time happen here at Chapel School? We started in 2003. We had never done chapel time before then. We did the self-study. There's a self-study that the ELCA did several decades ago that's still very relevant. We did it in 2003. It's called Ministry of the Congregation. It's available for free on the ELEA website. If you've never done this with your church, it's a wonderful thing you can do on your own, and I highly recommend it. We do it about every 10 years with our church, and it's just a great way to check in. So we had never, ever done chapel time. And then we did the self-study, and we realized that we really needed to be more intentional about our, having some kind of connection with the church. So we jumped in and we started doing chapel time every day. That's all we know. That works for us. And we did it when parents drop off. Every morning we have parents, we have grandparents, we have babysitters. We also have since COVID, we do Zoom. So every morning there's a Zoom call, and anybody, grandparents, aunts, uncles, parents who are working can join us on Zoom and be part of chapel time. And we probably get anywhere from a dozen to 24 people a day. Our average attendance every day is about 45 kids. So I would say 3/4 of our families stay for chapel time. It's fast. It's about 15-20 minutes, and they like it. They love that extra time with their child. Let's see. It really is the highlight of my day. I'm not just saying that because I'm giving a presentation on chapel time. It truly, truly is the highlight of my day. And it starts off with a bang. Again, those connections were really evident during COVID. We started using Zoom for chapel time in March of 2020, right after the shutdown. I did chapel time every morning from my kitchen, and I was shocked at how many families joined us every single morning. It just blew my mind. And that's how I could really see that parents and families wanted to stay connected to school. And so when chapel school opened back up in the fall of 2020, and we did classroom cohorts, and that's when I went into each classroom every day and I did chapel time in each cohort because we weren't doing any mixing at all. I was the only common denominator in all those rooms. And parents loved joining chapel time on Zoom from the classroom. You could see how many people I have had on there, and it was at different times every day. There were a lot of advantages to doing chapel time with each individual class, but we were really happy to get back together and doing chapel time in the sanctuary in March of 2022. This is a few of the elements of our daily routine. And just as a side note, this little picture shows my granddaughter, Isla, lighting the candle. All the kids take turns lighting the candle and putting it out every day, getting to be my acolyte. I put everybody's names in a bowl and I just pull a name every day. And but that's my granddaughter. I just thought I'd say that. So chapel time, we always have the very consistent daily routine. We're a high scope preschool, and those principles carry over into chapel time. So it's very consistent. This always comes after that, and we just don't really waver much from our routine. So it starts with a welcome. Any announcements that I might have to make, I say during the welcome. I also have little routines that I built into our welcome, like every day has a special day. Monday, we changed the name of Monday to Fun Day. Tuesday is a terrific Tuesday. Wednesday is a wonderful Wednesday. And Thursday is a thankful Thursday. And at our school, we don't have school on Fridays. We're only open Monday through Thursday. I could probably do a whole webinar about that as well, because that's something unusual, I know. So we start with the welcome, then we light our candles, then we sing a fun praise song. I get all our songs off of YouTube because we do use a projector to do chapel time. So we get up and we sing, and all the parents sing and dance with us. And then we do our Bible story. And then we pull out the kneelers, we say the Lord's Prayer. Then the same person that lit the candle gets to come back up and put the candle out, and then it's dismissal. So it takes anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes on average. Now, during the holidays, we add some other elements in there. Easter time, we're just about on February 29th, we'll start opening up resurrection eggs, which helps me tell the story of Easter. Every day I open up another resurrection egg, adds a few minutes to every chapel time. And then at Christmas time, we light Advent candles or Advent lights the 12 days before Christmas. So those 12 school days before Christmas, every day we light another candle, and they're just like the battery powered kind, but that adds a lot to our chapel time at Christmas. But you can do chapel time anywhere. What COVID taught us is that you can really do chapel time anywhere. Just add a candle and a cross, and you have a place to have chapel time. So it does not have to be in your sanctuary. This is our sanctuary. This is where I'm kind of talking to you guys from right now. And that little cutie in the front with the pink bow, that's my granddaughter, just saying. So what makes chapel time work? Shameless plugs for Isla Scout. First, you need a worship space. Again, it can be anywhere, sanctuary or fellowship hall, a classroom altar, outside. This picture was on a field trip. We were on a field trip. We live in St. Augustine. It's the oldest city in the United States. So there's lots of historic places nearby. Before COVID, we did a lot of field trips. Sadly, we don't do any since. But this was at a shrine here in St. Augustine, where the Spanish first landed in 1565. There is a shrine there, the Catholic Church, where they had their very first Christian mass here in North America. And we walked in this little building, and the kids saw that it was a small chapel. Right away, they saw the candles, they noticed an altar, and what they said was, "Look, it's a church." And then they very spontaneously said, "Let's pray." And they literally got on their knees and they started praying the Lord's Prayer. And you can see we're not the only people there. Those aren't all our parents in the background. Those were other visitors. And our kids just got down on their knees, started praying the Lord's Prayer very spontaneously. No one coached them. And I caught this picture and I just love it. But it just shows that you can pray anywhere. You can have chapel time anywhere. Some of the song resources that I use a lot of YouTube videos. Go Fish is one of my favorite song resources. They have great songs. They always have, the movements to the songs, and they also have the lyrics on their videos, which is great. Look at your VBS songs. I'm sure your church probably does a VBS. There's a wealth of songs with VBS. Think about your old favorites. I love to do the silly version of Jesus Loves Me. If we have time at the end, I could show you. I just want to be a sheep. Ba, 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 ba. Your classroom songs that your congregation sings during worship, just really be creative. Add a fun song. We do the same song for 2 weeks so that everybody gets a chance to learn it, because we have chapel every day. So we do the same song for 2 weeks. Bible resources. I'm a big fan of Spark House. We use the Spark Story Bible for daily chapel. Hands down, best children's Bible I have ever used. It starts with creation, and there's stories all the way through the entire Bible. They're short, they're fast, they're fun. They have very engaging pictures. There's a little character called Squiggles in every illustration after he's created, of course. And it's the best children's Bible resource, I think, hands down. I also do something called Sunday Chapel, which I'll talk about it more in a minute. On Sundays, I use the Holy Moly curriculum, which is also fantastic. Both of those for preschool age kids, I would suggest either one of those. I plan out the entire school year for the Bible stories. I do that at the beginning of the school year, so I can do those Christmas stories at Christmas time, so I could do those Easter stories at Easter time, so I could fit everything in. I just plan out the whole year. For me, it's just easier. I definitely suggest that. I think it's really important to know your material. Whoever's going to do chapel time for you, make sure they know the material. I'm the one who does chapel time here at Chapel School. Before me, we had one of our teachers was our Christian ed director here back in 2003, and she did chapel time for the first few years, and she did a great job with it. We've never had a pastor do our chapel time, but that's because none of our pastors has expressed an interest in doing it. None of them have ever felt like that's their strength. It doesn't have to be a pastor. It can be somebody like me. I'm not a pastor. I just love Jesus and I know how to tell a good story. That's what it takes to lead chapel time, really. So you want to understand the point of the story and know how you're going to make it. I mean, as many times as I've told these stories out of the Spark Bible, every morning I take 10 minutes here in the church and I review the story and I think about the points I'm going to make and the things I'm going to point out in the illustrations and how they're good. How do I want them to receive that? And I also take time to pray. That's really important too. Everybody knows, don't disturb Miss Linda before chapel time. She's in the church and she's getting ready. And think about, what do you want the students and their families to take from the story? Because, you got to keep it down here for the kids, but you also have adults, and you want the parents to connect as well. So you kind of have to be a Disney movie. You got to have stuff that the kids will understand and then stuff that the parents will understand as well. And then praying together, my favorite part of chapel time. I just love to pray, and our kids love to pray, and they pray all the time in very spontaneous ways. And they love it. We talk about, how everybody has a different posture of prayer. And at chapel school, we pull out the kneelers, we put our knees on the kneeler, we fold our hands, and we close our eyes so we can focus on. And every morning I say this, and every morning the kids say, God. It's just another routine. It's another thing they're all used to. When we pray the Lord's Prayer every day. So the kids learn that really, really fast. On Sundays, we do an intercessory prayers, and it's a very interactive thing. I tell them the intercessory prayers are about praying for the church and the world and everyone in it. And then I get suggestions from the congregation on Sundays. How are we going to pray for the church? How are we going to pray for the world? How are we going to pray for the people? It's very interactive. So that's how we pray together. During chapel time, we do prayer requests as well. And then any other way that whatever way you feel closest to God through your prayers, share that. Your families want to know, because they're trying to do the same thing with their families more often than not. And then the holidays is always, all these connections that we're making in chapel time are just magnified during the holidays. And there's so many ways to just really extend what we're doing at the holidays. I talked a little bit about the Advent path. That's such an exciting way to lead up to Christmas and getting kids so excited about the birth of Christ. It's just something simple. I have a picture coming up of it, but I hot glued battery powered candles on a little metal structure I bought at Hobby Lobby. And I just flip on a light every morning during in the leading up days to Christmas. And it's a whole thing. I tell the kids, I count to 3 and they yell out, baby Jesus. I flip on a candle. Oh my gosh, it's the biggest deal, and it's easy peasy, but they love it, and it gets them excited about Christmas. We collect diapers during December to honor baby Jesus, and we give those diapers to the homeless coalition here locally. People want to do things for others, especially at the holidays. And another thing we do, and you can see this in a couple of these pictures, we have little wooden mangers that somebody made for us, and we have one for every classroom. And when our kids return after Thanksgiving, what they find in their classroom is a shiny star hanging in the middle of their classroom. Now, this isn't tucked into a corner. This is in the middle of their classrooms. A shiny star hanging from a string, and then underneath is a wooden manger with baby Jesus. And he becomes part of their classroom. It becomes part of their culture. So baby Jesus is with them until Christmas time, and they read to him, they play with him. I mean, he just becomes part of their day. And it's just wonderful to see what kind of interactions the kids choose to have on their own with Jesus. This year we did something new. We did what's called reverse Advent baskets. I bought big canvas bags at IKEA, 15 of them, and I had our youth group decorate them with messages of love and hope. And then we put together lists of 10 items that people could donate. We had a list for women, a list for men, a list for kids. I can't remember. There are 5 different lists of 10 items. And then our church members took these bags and then filled them up, brought them back to church. We had them on the altar all during December. And then there's a church that rents space from us here. They do a big Christmas meal for the community downtown, and they took those bags and gave them away. And so that was another way that we could connect with our community. And then at Easter time, I talked a little bit about the resurrection eggs. I use resurrection eggs during chapel time. Our kids make their own sets of resurrection eggs every Easter, so they have that to take with them. We do Easter egg hunts, and we do a huge Palm Sunday event every year, as our Palm Sunday is bigger than Easter here at Memorial Lutheran. But just any, the holidays are great for getting everyone involved in what's happening at your school for chapel time. Yeah, in the pictures, you could see how kids are playing with Jesus and reading to him. And then in the middle at the bottom here, that's Adriana. She just loved Jesus. This is a little stuffed Jesus we have in all our classrooms. And she was so excited. She drew a picture after we read the story that day of Jesus walking on water. That's what she did during work time, is she did that great picture. So when you create these relationships with Jesus and these kids, they're going to create their own relationship with Jesus. It's great. And then there's so many other opportunities. Once you make these connections in chapel time, they just naturally just spread out into your church. So our teachers extend the stories that we do at chapel time into the classrooms. And I'll have some pictures of that coming up, but they don't do that every day, but there's many times, at least 2-3 times a month, they extend whatever story we're doing, because I've planned out the year, the teachers know what's coming up. And I have a book with all the stories, and it's available to the teachers so they can, as they're making their plans for what they're doing in the classroom, if they want to choose to do the chapel stories, they can, and they very often do. We also extended a chapel time into having an adult Bible study after chapel time. And we had a lot of families, especially grandparents, stay for Bible study after chapel time. I led it. Our pastor has led it in the past. Then I had a parent who was in seminary. She led it. Right now we don't have one, but I have someone from the church that wants to start that up again. So I'm like, great, come on, we'll do it. Then we have 4 intentional events during the school year that intentional meaning we intentionally invite families to church at least 4 times a year. So we have 4 events all year that we really make it a point of saying, this is a time when you are invited to come to church and celebrate chapel school. So we do backpack blessings on God's Work Our Hands Sunday in September. Lutheran Schools Week. I can't express to you enough how big Lutheran Schools Week is here at Chapel School. That is the time to celebrate, have fun. If you've never done Lutheran Schools Week, I highly, highly recommend that you do so. It is the best week, the most fun week here at Chapel School every year. And we do a kickoff for Lutheran Schools Week where we invite everybody to church, and the kids get up and sing a chapel song they already know. And then we do a baccalaureate service for all graduates, whether it's preschool all the way to high school and college. All graduates are invited to our baccalaureate service. And then again, Palm Sunday is our biggest day of the year. We do a big egg hunt and a procession and a picnic. And that's when everybody comes to church. Before I became the family ministry director here at the church already decided to rename Sunday school Sunday Chapel School, because chapel is what families connect with here in our community from Chapel School. So they changed the name of Sunday school to Sunday Chapel School. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then our Praygrounds, which I'll talk more about in just a second as well. Another way that the church started to get the connection between school and church was by incorporating some of our chapel songs into the Sunday worship services. So when families did show up, the kids could hear something familiar that they remembered. And then VBS, VBS is a wonderful church school connection. Almost all the kids that come to our vacation Bible school are former chapel school kids and their friends. Same with youth group. Almost all our youth group kids are chapel school kids and their friends. And we just started another youth group for elementary kids. So don't forget about them when you're planning your activities. And then here in St. Augustine, we have a huge Christmas and Easter parade. They're a big part of our community and our culture, and we participate in those as well. And our newest and biggest connection, the one that really changed my life, was we now have a Sunday worship service that's designed specifically for families, and it's called Sunday Chapel. And it's, we used to have a traditional service at 8 o'clock and a modern blend at 10:30. And now at 9:30, we have what's called Sunday Chapel right in the middle. And it's again, I lead this worship service, and then Pastor Dow comes in at the end for communion. We started it in November of 2022, and it's a lot, but it's fantastic. I really, really, really love it. So why did we do a Sunday service? It was clear, crystal clear, especially after COVID, that families wanted more. I don't know if anybody else had this, but here at our church, we could really tell that families wanted more, especially after COVID. They are hungry for the gospel. They want to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. And so we really, again, by intentionally elevating the roles of our weekday families, by really getting the church to see these weekday families with the same lenses that they saw Sunday families. That doesn't come naturally, sadly, for our churches. And we had to really, really, really push to elevate that role of our weekday families, to get the church to see them in the same light. And how did we do that? We did that by listening to the needs of our families, really asking the questions about what are they searching for? And they were happy to tell us. I think they were very honored that we even asked, because that meant that we cared. Meeting them where we are, just like where they are, just like we do at chapel time when they're dropping off. We're meeting them where they are. They're already here at 8:30, dropping off their kid. That's when we're having chapel time. And so by talking to them and listening what their needs were, we were able to meet them there at their needs and create the Sunday chapel. And another big part of it was not expecting anybody to join the church as members, right? You're not giving them a job. We're not asking you to come so you can be the future of the church. We're asking you to come because we're wanting to share the love of Jesus Christ. And so that's how we created Sunday Chapel. So what we heard when we did talk to parents, we heard that church was too long. I don't know about your churches. Our church services are an hour and 15 minutes plus. They're extremely liturgical. And we heard from our families that many of them just didn't connect with the liturgy. Most of our families are unchurched. Most of them had never even been to church. So I remember one comment specifically was, well, there's a lot of standing and sitting. A lot of standing and sitting. Yes, there is. But they didn't understand, why are they standing and sitting? Why are we saying all these things? Why are we, so a lot of them just didn't connect with the liturgy. They literally said, the worship just doesn't speak to me, what we were doing. And it was a hard thing for the church to hear, that the things that they were doing were not speaking to these families. But it was important information to know. And so then what we did, we took that information, we listened to the families, and we developed something completely new. Instead of trying to change what was working for some people, we just decided to take a chance and develop something that was an alternate. Here's something different. Here's something that's designed just for you. We involved our youth. Our youth are the greeters. Our youth are the musicians. Our youth are the communion assistants. Pastor brings all the children onto the altar during communion. That it's a very, very inclusive and interactive morning when we have Sunday chapel. And we let it evolve. This has been going on for over a year now. And, we keep tweaking it as we hear, we're constantly asking, how did you like this? What was your favorite part of that? What is something you think we should change? We're just always listening, and we let it evolve naturally. So what does Sunday Chapel look like? It's about 35 to 45 minutes long, again, depending on the holidays or things that might be happening in the church. We usually get anywhere from 20 to 40 people on an average Sunday. The highest attendance was last Palm Sunday. We had 149 people. My mind is still blown. We had a Palm Sunday procession that wrapped around the church 3 times. It was wild. there's a lot of youth involved. And last year, we baptized 16 kids, and that hasn't happened here at our church since the 1940s. I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, but you know, it was a great, just if you could only measure it by that, then it was a success. But it's really a lot of fun. And just, if I could just point out on the left bottom, that's my granddaughter getting baptized. Since I'm pointing her out. She was one of those 16 kids, and that made me really, really happy. But just above that picture, you can see Pastor Dow is just an expert at taking whatever story that I'm teaching during Sunday chapel and using that in communion. Now, he doesn't always sit down on the floor like he's sitting there in that picture, but he's great at bringing everybody up to the altar and creating this welcome table where he just weaves everything together, and he's just so good at all that. But you can see he just creates a very welcoming, safe space for the kids up there on the altar. And then on Palm Sunday, you could see all those kids, and they even let me put my wooden palm trees up there on Palm Sunday. And then, as I said, the kids are the ones who are communion assistants for our youth. That's just been amazing for them. They come to Sunday chapel because they want to serve. So they come to church because they want to serve. And I think that's a great reason to come to church. And then the picture on the right and the bottom was before I went to Seattle last year for the ELEA event. Pastor had everybody come and put hands on me, and they gave me a blessing. That was really nice. Oops. See, there we go. So here are the elements that we do every Sunday morning. We start with a welcome. As I said, our youth are the greeters. So they are in the front doors of the church. When people walk in, they give each child a little blue ticket, the little double-sided tickets that have the numbers on them. That's how we use to choose an acolyte. During chapel time, during the week, I put all the kids' names in a bowl. But on Sundays, I don't know who's going to show up. So I can't really put all the kids' names in a bowl. So when kids come in, they get a ticket, and then all the tickets go in a bag. And then when it's time to light the candle, I pull a number out of the bag, and that's who lights the candle. Because kids love to do that, by the way. They love to light the candle, and they love to get the microphone and say, "The Lord be with you." And I think there's a lot to be said for just that little bit of bravery it takes to take a microphone and speak to everyone. And I think all the kids need to have that opportunity. That's why I do that. Our opening prayer I use from Sundays and Seasons, the same one that the church uses. I get my praise song resources from YouTube. Some you have to pay for if you use any through group, but most of them are free that you can use on your PowerPoint. I talked a little bit about the intercessory prayers. The framework for intercessory prayers comes from Sundays and Seasons each week. But then, as I said, the kids and their families decide how we're going to pray for the church, how we're going to pray for the world, and how we're going to pray for the people. I always have things already pre-written in there that I'm thinking about. So if nobody has anything, like sometimes we'll only have 15 people or so in church. And when I say, okay, how are we going to pray for the church? Everybody will just kind of look at me. And I'll say, okay, well, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary. Maybe we should pray about that, you know? So I have things ready to do, but I always ask for them. And you'd be shocked with some of the things that we pray about here. I'm always surprised when you ask kids, how should we pray, what they choose to do. It's very revealing, and it's very special. And then we do a Bible story. I use Holy Moly on Sunday mornings. If you've never used Holy Moly, just to warn you, the videos they speak gibberish. They don't use words. They actually use this made up language. And so the setup for Holy Moly is super important. You know, so you've got to set it up. And then what's really wonderful when they watch the video, they put their own words to it. And that's what I love the most about Holy Moly, really. But it has great great characters, and it just needs the setup. So you introduce it, you introduce the theme, introduce the Bible verse, introduce the characters, and then I play the video. And I tell them, I give them suggestions of what to watch for in the video as well. And then we read the story that we just watched. We read it in our Holy Moly Bible. And then I talk about the story that we're going to do the following week, because I want to get people excited already about coming back. And then I also do that during chapel time every day. I always talk about what the story that's coming up. Then we do a prayer that everybody reads together. And then another thing that really surprised me when we did Sunday chapel, because parents had said it needs to be fast, you know, we have a busy day on Sundays together as a family, and that they made it sound like they really wanted to leave fast after Sunday chapel. So in the beginning, I gave out these take-home packets of crafts that you can purchase from Spark House that go with each story. Because I thought, okay, parents are going to want to grab and go. But what has surprised me over this last year is they all come to fellowship. And that's where the kids all do the craft together. The youth sit with the kids, do the craft, while all the parents sit and have coffee and talk. And for those of, that was a shock to me, because everybody talked about how they needed it to be fast, yet they all want to stay and have fellowship. So it's nice to have those options. So I always talk about whatever craft it is we're going to be doing during fellowship. And then we have Holy Communion, those last 10 minutes. Pastor Dow invites the children up onto the altar. The youth are the communion assistants. We do our communion prayer. Pastor Dow gives everybody a blessing. And then we put the candle out and we say, go in peace, serve the Lord. So it's, like I said, it's about 35 to 45 minutes. I have to keep it under 45 minutes though, because we have another service at 10:30 here in the sanctuary. So we did have a problem in the beginning of congregants from the 10:30 service coming in early, chatting in the back while we're trying to have church. But now they're also interested in what we're doing. They all now just come in and join the service, and kind of those who are early for the 10:30 service kind of join the end of our Sunday chapel service before staying for their service. So that's been kind of cool too, is to see the interest from our families. Before we had Sunday chapel here, though, we were still trying to integrate families into our regular worship services, and that's where Praygrounds really came into play for us. So this photo on the left is what we would do during our contemporary service at 10:30. I brought in a table. I brought in some quiet snacks and activities for the kids to do. I tried to get activities that kind of went with whatever lectionary story that Pastor Dow was doing that day. And families would sit nearby. So the kids would kind of sit at this little table with me. Families would sit next to them, behind them, in front of them. And that's how we did, that was called our Prayground area. It was towards the front of the sanctuary, so kids could see what was happening. They were still involved in worship. They still prayed when we prayed. They sang when we sang. But then when they were bored, they could do some other quiet activities. And then in our church hall, we also have a Prayground area. Parents, our doors are unlocked at 8:20. And chapel starts at 8:30. So for that 10 minutes in between, that's when parents come in, check in, sign their children in and out, or sign their children in, and put away backpacks and water bottles and that kind of stuff, and then come back into the hall to get ready for when the chapel bell rings. And I just have a bell that I ring right at 8:30 to gather everybody together. But in the meantime, the kids are able to go into that playground area and just play with them, some toys. They can color, they can just hang out with each other, because the hall gets very busy with about 45 kids getting dropped off at the same time. So that playground area, and you know, your playground is showing any space like that that you're dedicating for the families in your area. Your playground then makes a statement that this congregation is making space for you, a sacred space for you and your family and your children. This is a place you belong here. That's what I had a family say that to me, gosh, about 15 years ago. They walked into our church hall and we had pictures up that the kids had made. And she was like, as soon as I saw pictures that kids drew on the wall, I knew my family was welcome here. So remember, those kind of things make a statement to your families on how much, they're welcome in your church, those playground spaces. And anywhere you can do those. And we even put up a little sign, a little decal there, just so the church, because sometimes you have to remind your church members that this is a sacred space as well. So then these are just other pictures from Chapel Sky. This is how the teachers kind of extend those stories into the classrooms. The picture on the left, that was the Holy Spirit. When the Holy Spirit appeared like flames on their heads, the kids were showing me, yeah, their hair went up from the wind and then they had fire. So I thought that was a cute picture. On the right, we were actually filming a scene for a movie. We do one of our spring fundraiser is a big movie that I make with the kids every year. And we usually do scenes from our Spark Bible, all their favorite, whatever their favorite stories are, we do from the Spark Bible. So we were filming a scene for the Lord's Supper. And I thought it was so uncannily the same as Leonardo da Vinci's picture. I had to put the two together. And those are all 2-year-olds doing the Lord's Supper. And then there at the bottom, that is the Battle of Jericho. They're marching around the walls of Jericho with their shofars, which I love. And that was after a chapel time during COVID that they did that. This was right at the end of COVID. The picture on the left was when our church finally went back into in-person worship and the kids welcomed everybody back. They made their own sign and welcomed everybody back to church. And then on the right was our very first chapel time in March of 2022, when we were finally able to gather together, not be in cohorts. But that's what pretty much our chapel time looks like every morning. You can see there's lots of families, there's staff members, there's children all together in worship. And that's pretty much what chapel time looks like. Baptisms, we've been doing baptisms before last year when we had our record number, but these baptisms are within the last 10 years. The one on the right was done during a morning chapel time. Parents really wanted to get their child baptized and they wanted to do it during chapel time. So our pastor at the time said, sure, I'll come in and do it during chapel time. And then on the left, that was during our end of year picnic. And we have an outdoor chapel area here at our church. And so we did a baptism during our picnic. Why not? So these are two of my favorite pictures. Every year I have a child who kind of becomes my chapel time partner. Not every year, but almost every year. You have one child who just really is into the stories, who asks the questions and answers my questions, who's really just in it. And for a few years, it was Flippy. This little boy's name is Philip, but he goes by Flippy. And Flippy hung on every word I said in chapel time every day. And every day he extended those stories into his work time choices. So we're a high scope school. We have work time as the longest segment of our daily routine. It's when children get to follow their own interests and do what they want. Flippy loved chapel. He loved Jesus. He was forever creating altars and spaces on his own time during work time in the classroom. And not only was Flippy doing this for Flippy got everybody else into the Flippy is a future pastor. I think he's brought everybody in. The picture on the bottom right, I happened to walk in the classroom and Flippy was doing this. And I was like, hey, Flippy, what you doing? And he said, I'm a pirate. I was like, oh, you're a pirate. He goes, well, actually, I'm Jesus, but a pirate. And I was like, oh, okay, Jesus. So why do you have your arms out? He goes, I'm telling the classroom, peace, be still. Arr. That's literally what he did. I just thought that was precious. And then the other picture is, again, he was just all about creating altars and loved to pray. So he got everybody praying during work time. And this is Cole, and this is one of my all-time favorite pictures. So this was during COVID, and during work time, during COVID, we used to put butterfly wings on all the kids, hoping that it might give them a sense of self and space and distance, but it really didn't work. But we did it anyway, and we tried. So that's why he's wearing butterfly wings. And but so this is during work time, and this was at Christmas time. And Cole was the kind of kid who he had a really rough home life. He was staying with his grandmother because mom really wasn't in the picture anymore. And he wasn't really happy about that. And it showed up at school. You know, he was very much a loner. He didn't play with a lot of people, but he played with Jesus, and he played blocks with Jesus, and he read to Jesus, and he really, really bonded with baby Jesus. And I just love this picture. Cole is now in third grade, and his grandma still is in touch with us, and they come to Sunday chapel a couple times a year. So it's nice to see them. Here's some of the ways we extend Easter. So the picture on the left is foot washing. We were filming another scene for a movie, and I just love that look of joy on his face when he was getting his feet washed by his friend. I asked him, I said, "Does it tickle?" And he was like, "Yeah, but it just feels so good." I just love that picture. And then the picture on the right is the kids making their own resurrection eggs that they can take home. And when I see former families out in our community, one of the things I always hear is, "Gosh, we miss chapel time." That's the number one thing I hear. "Oh, I miss chapel time." And then the next thing they tell me is that they still have their Spark Bible, because all our graduates get their own. Our church buys a Spark Bible for every single graduate at chapel school. And the church members line up to do this. They love to do this, by the way. And then I also hear, "We still have our resurrection eggs, and our kid still tells the story of Easter every year using those resurrection eggs." So, those little things really do help. We love to make those resurrection eggs still every year. And then Lutheran Schools Week. I can't say enough about Lutheran Schools Week. Again, it is the funnest week of the year for us, and we celebrate big. Every day the kids dress up in different ways. This was sports team day, and this is our VPK class, and we pose for a picture every day during Lutheran Schools Week. And I just love how this little picture kind of reflects everybody's personalities. And then during COVID, we used our outdoor chapel all the time. That's the only way we could safely meet. And this was our Christmas program in 2020 out in our outdoor chapel. Below that, toward the left, that's a statue here on our property. The kids, this was our 2-year-old class. The teacher told me when she sent me this picture, she said, well, she was talking to the kids about what they wanted to do that day in the classroom for work time, and they wanted to go dance with Jesus. So that's what they did. That's what they're doing there. They are dancing with Jesus. So, I mean, when you present Jesus in such a way, and you're constantly talking about our friend Jesus, and the kids understand how much Jesus loves them, they want to dance with Jesus. So that's what they did that day. On the bottom middle, that is my Advent light path I was telling you guys about, my little battery powered candles that I hot glued to the little metal thing. There it is. And like I said, every day we just light a candle. It was easy peasy, and it creates so much excitement about Christmas time. When we light that last candle, I mean, these kids are on the edge of their seats. They cannot wait. It is here. Baby Jesus is born. It's a big deal. And the picture on the right was last year at Ash Wednesday. And Pastor Dow comes in on Ash Wednesday and does ashes for whomever wants those. So that was one of our chapel school kids on Ash Wednesday. We also talk about the Reformation since we're Lutherans. We talked about the Reformation in chapel time, and the teachers told me that the kids were really talking about it during their large group time. So we decided to do a little activity on the spur of the moment during work time. We nailed 95 theses to our church door, and they're just post notes with 95, but they had a lot of fun doing it. And so many of them went home and told their parents about this. I got a lot of parent feedback from this, very positive, that the kids really liked this and remembered all the details because they were actively doing it. The picture on the left is a sample. We have chapel areas in our classrooms. We started this during COVID, creating chapel areas. And that's something that is still in all our classrooms, a little chapel area. You know, we just found these little bookshelves and thought that this was perfect because it had a place to sit. I don't even think we paid $300 for these little bookshelves from Kaplan or somewhere. And, you know, a wooden cross from Oriental Trading. Some of our classes painted their cross, some didn't. And then again, a battery operated candle. They got to have a candle for chapel time. At least here we do. So the kids love to visit chapel time. And then we do live in St. Augustine, the nation's oldest city. We have a huge Christmas parade every year. It's the largest Christmas parade in the state of Florida. And our Easter parade is the oldest Easter parade in the state of Florida. They're both pretty big. One of our former families, the dad is the general manager of a local trolley. You know, we're a tourist town. So when you come to St. Augustine, you take a trolley ride and you get to hear all about all the historic sites. So they donate a trolley to us every year for the Christmas and Easter parades, and we decorate them with all things the kids make. And we share our love with our community. And it's a huge, last year at Christmas, there was not one empty seat on our trolley that seats over 100 people. But my number one tip about everything is just be intentional about inviting. If you want families to show up for chapel time, you have to invite them, and you have to constantly invite them. We've been doing chapel time since 2003. Every communication I have with parents involves an invitation to chapel. That's where it starts. It starts on their tour of our school before they even enroll their child. I am inviting them to chapel time. I bring them into the church as part of the tour. I explain what I do at chapel time, and I tell them, you know, you are always welcome at chapel time. There's no pressure. There's no judgment if you can't come, but you just know you are always, always welcome. And if you can't come in person, you're always welcome to join us on Zoom. So you don't get discouraged if people don't show up. Just keep inviting. That is really the number one tip I can give you, is you have to be very intentional. And now for Sunday chapel, if I don't talk about Sunday chapel during chapel time, if I don't send out social media messages about chapel time, if I don't send out texts and bright wheel messages, nobody shows up. So we live in an age where you have to constantly invite and constantly keep inviting. I mean, I know I border on bothering people. Okay, you can be mad at me. I'm bothering you. I'm inviting you. But really, really, really invite. And I'll just end by sharing this picture, which is one of my favorites. This was from like 5 years ago or so. All the kids were gathered on the playground, and the teacher's like, what's going on? You know, like everybody's in the corner of the playground. What's happening? So the teacher walks up and she's like, what's going on? And the kids are like, we found Jesus. We found Jesus on the playground. And this is what it was. Some mulch had fallen to the shape of a cross on a leaf. But the kids found Jesus on their own. And they recognized that that cross meant that Jesus was there. And it just meant everything to them. And I just want you to know that you're not just caring for these families' children, you're caring for their family. And that truly is love. So just keep on loving those families. And thank you for all you do. Let's see what time. Oh, I did pretty good time-wise. That's all I got. Oh, am I
You did
muted?
great. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. No, you're good. You're good. So Linda, is Sunday Chapel still live streamed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to visit Linda during Sunday Chapel, it is live streamed. I don't know where that link is, but I know I've seen it in the past. I've
Yeah, you can
tapped
find
in on a
Memorial Lutheran
Sunday.
Church on YouTube, and it's in there somewhere. I can't guarantee how good the sound is sometimes, but and there's nobody like some of our worship services. There's people that work the camera and make it like zoom in and stuff, but nobody does that for our service. So it's just going to be like one camera angle. So nothing fancy, but you can come and have fun.
Yeah,
Anything.
it's still super fun. Did anybody have questions for Linda?
I love questions. No questions?
Should be able to unmute if you want.
So thank you. This has been like amazing information and really kind of fills me with hope and excitement. So thank you. Question about your Sunday chapel. So was this a service, like you added a third service, or did you have 3 services and you morphed it?
No, we added a third service. It was
Okay.
definitely created out of nothing.
Okay, awesome. And then what is your like average attendance at your other services, just so I can get an idea?
We usually have 25 or so at our 8 o'clock service and about 40 at the 10:30 service. We're
Okay.
a small, older congregation.
Yeah. So then the
Or-
20 to 40 at the family chapel or Sunday chapel really is a
Yes,
great showing, a great number.
yes,
Awesome. Thank you.
yes. And it's funny, our church members, it's so many of them, the 10:30 people have come up to me in the last year and said, oh, I miss the families. And I'm like, well, come at 9:30. You can come at 9:30. All the families are there, and then stay for your 10:30. And a lot of them are starting to do that.
Oh, cool.
All right. Any other questions? All right, I will share a few things. Just in closing, I'm gonna I put these things in chat for whoops. We'll see if it lets me send. Okay, so we have a redesigned website. So you please check that out. It has, we've gotten a lot of good feedback. We're still working on some finishing touches. So if you see something that doesn't seem quite right, let me know. Lutheran Schools Week is March 3rd through the 9th, and the website has a folder available to anyone. If you click on the faith formation page, full of age-specific daily lessons, bulletin inserts, coloring pages, posters, social media posts, and a lot more. A small committee on the ELEA board put all of those materials together this year, and feedback has been very positive. So I'm hopeful
So
that all of you
good.
can use those. And if you have, other people who want to use them, like I said, they're just available on the website to anyone. And then we do have several new and updated resources in the Member Information Center. I think most of you on today's call are members. So you go to the website, then you go to the login, and you'll find resources listed on the left-hand side. If you have any trouble getting into that member information page, please contact Melanie or myself. We can make sure that your login information is up to date and we have the correct email address and things like that. And then one more resource I wanted to tell you about is that the ELCA and the ELEA worked together and contracted some research by Barna, which is a large research organization. And the findings are almost complete. We still have a few things we're going to tweak, but they did a very large study of 1,000 people. To learn what parents and caregivers of children 0 to 5 are looking for from church communities and are looking for in support. So we do have a workshop that we're able to present, findings that we're able to present. You can get access to all of the data if you want. I think it's about 86 pages of data, but we've consolidated it into a workshop. And then at the end of that, you have access to a survey tool that you could actually deploy in your own community. and gather those findings, and then really kind of nail down what it is that families in your community are looking for and what things are important to you. Two of the things we kind of picked out were one thing that is really applicable to how you market your school or center, based on what parents are looking for, what values are very important to them. And then the other one was just perceptions of what people's perception of an ELCA congregation is, and if they even have knowledge of kind of the identity of the ELCA. So all of that is available, like I said, on our website. Some of it behind the member login. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Linda, thank you so much for being here. Just love hearing about all the things that you're doing with Chapel School and for your community, and just thank you for being such a huge champion for ELEA. And great to see so many friendly faces and familiar faces. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you all so much for being here. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Linda.